Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Freeman Files here on the J Free 906 podcast channel. Welcome to Mike and Shannon once again as we get ready for tonight's episode. Thank you all for joining us. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Ready to hit another phenomenal episode.
Yes, it
A
was.
lot of good content.
What do you think, Shannon? Was it a good one?
It was a great one. They're always great. They're always great. They always leave me with more questions than answers. So I think it's a sign of a good episode.
Yes, I saw that a few people were saying that in the chat as we were getting ready to get started. And I saw one Michael Scott said, "I've broken my brain trying to figure out what's going on there." I agree, Michael. I agree with you 100%. That is definitely how I feel sometimes at the end of all this stuff. Well, thank you, folks, for joining us here tonight. We appreciate it very much. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like the content of the show we give you here tonight, consider giving us a thumbs up. We appreciate that very much. We got a lot to unpack here tonight. We do not have a Skinwalker Ranch Q&A after at 9 o'clock.
So we can go all night.
Oh, we can go all
Jeff
night.
Jeff can talk as much as he wants. And no one's going to cut the cord and shut him off. Just keep going.
Yes, cut that.
Wind him up and let him go.
No, I will do my best to give you guys all the time you need to jump in and explain things for us, because there's so much of this I don't understand. Yeah. So, all right. I tell you what, let's go ahead and jump into it, shall we? So, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Season 6, Episode number 2, The Drone Zone. And this was a cool one because I love to see the guys from Sky Limits come back on the show. We'll get to them in just a minute, but take a look. Here is the Mesa, and here is that place in question that I've often shown a picture of, and I've talked about this before as it looks like a collapse. I mentioned this last week, but just look at that picture. It looks like a collapsed area, doesn't it? I mean, it just does. All that rubble there that's piled up and everything. I know they've talked about this before, but it certainly does to me. And unstable. They climb up this thing all the time, and now they're drilling underneath it and into it and everything. And it just, there's always that fear that some of that's going to come sliding right on down that hill. They did bring out the guys from Mark Construction again, Alex and Mike, coming back out to continue with that borehole that they had worked on last year, that they were finally able to get poked through the top of the Mesa. And I know there it is right there. That's the beginning of the hole right there. And as Mike, as you and I kind of talked about last year, I thought for sure this thing was going to be collapsed and there was going to be no way.
I couldn't believe it. Did not believe it. And they didn't plug it. I mean, you could add critters and all kinds of stuff would have gotten into that, because that would have been a nice place to winter over winter. Mm-hmm. And it looked fantastic.
Yeah, it really did.
It says a lot about the actual rock material of the Mesa too, probably adding to the difficulty of drilling. The fact that it hasn't moved or collapsed inward through the winter and the weather and all of that stuff.
Right.
Which is,
I was impressed those guys came back.
Yeah.
With all the trouble they've had.
Yeah. I wouldn't have blamed them.
No.
That was a rough one last year.
It was.
But they made it.
They did. I started to believe at one point, that maybe they're not going to get this thing drilled at all because of all the attempts. And they kind of went through those. And one of the things too, and I wanted to ask this of you folks real quick. I know that our friend Maddie's been on the show before, and he may join us coming up here in a couple of weeks. He may join us here to talk about Skinwalker Ranch. But Maddie Blake doing these little behind the gates shows that he's had a couple of going on. I think they're pretty good, but he's kind of stealing our thunder. He's doing a recap of the episode. I'm like, Maddie, what are you doing? But it's pretty good because they kind of, sometimes he asks the questions that I'd like to ask. But he kind of digs into this with fresh eyes, and that's I really do kind of appreciate that. We get a little bit more of each episode right after that. And I don't know, they're going to continue these, I suppose, after every episode. Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yep. So but that's nice as members of the insiders, the Skinwalker Ranch insiders, we get the Q&A, and that's really cool. Great one last week. And folks, if you haven't already, I'd like to suggest, if you don't know anything of, there's many of the folks in the chat here tonight I know are members of the Skinwalker Ranch insiders. It's a fantastic program. It is a paid program. It is available. Just do skinwalker-ranch.com. It'll take you out there. And I think there's a free trial going right now. You type in Dragon. Dragon is hosting them now. You type in Dragon and you can get a free trial of it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And they do a Q&A usually Wednesday right after my podcast, because they don't want to interrupt my podcast, as if they knew, right?
That's
But
exactly it. That's exactly what it is. Yep.
Oh yeah, there you go. Free month if you use Dragon is a word there to get in. Yeah, so a promo word. Anyway, so my little tip for that, it's a great thing. I've been a member since the beginning, and I love it. It's absolutely wonderful. All right, so let's move along. So the guys they were looking up inside this hole with a camera. They put a snake up in this thing, and as they were taking the snake up in there, they came across this green rock, or what it looks like a green rock or a green lump of some sort. And of course, that brought us back to when they found, when Dragon found the green jelly-like substance in the spoils of the drilling from last season. The ones that he probably should not have picked up in his bare hand.
Yeah.
Just saying that's probably was a bad choice of things to do. But yeah, so that green substance, and they took it and they had it analyzed, if you remember this from last year, and it was plant material that had been burned. Why it was in a jelly form like that, I don't know. Maybe it coagulates or something and comes together as a gel form, but that's what it came to be. And this brought up all kinds of questions. I know for us, or at least for me anyway, thinking about what if this was some sort of an impact area from a meteorite impact, and it had hit this is what I came up with, my little idea, and it hit the ground and it skidded into the mesa. And as it did, it took plant life with it, and then it was very hot. It burned it all. And then it cooled later. That would answer a few questions, like the where the drill was not going up, it was going down because they couldn't steer it up. It was hitting something. I don't know. What do you guys think about all that?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, we've just because of the type of stuff that's come out of there, the metal flakes and this, there still seems to be, and the porcelain in the first episode, there seems to be some way for things to get into the mesa, whether it was long ago or more recent. There seems to be a way to get inside. Now, it may not be something people can get through. It's not, maybe it doesn't have to be a cave, but could be underground river that's pulling stuff in, and it's getting caught up in nooks and crannies or something. I don't know, but clearly there's man-made stuff that has gotten into the mesa.
Yep.
And so there had to be an entry point at some time in the past.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks a lot like a limestone, which would make sense for how hard it is. I know there's limestone in Utah, and then I'm sure we're going to get into it, but like the stuff that they've pulled out of it, especially this week, reminds me very much of marine shells. That was my first thought. Some of that black that they pulled out looks very much like what I have found at the beach growing up. Like it looks like it may be like a fossilized marine, and there's no way. I mean, I'm sure they're going to look into all of this stuff, but it did very much look marine life-like to me. And that's not to say that it couldn't be coming from like a river or another water source. But I definitely think that there's some water element to, now that we've pulled some more of this stuff out, that the stuff that they pulled out this week looked very marine life, fossil shell type.
Yep.
Yeah,
I thought
at
so
least
too.
from my eyes.
Why still gelatin and not stone, Marilee? I'm not really sure, but because they come across some other stuff in there that was muddy. I mean, when they sucked it out, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But I mean, it was kind of muddy coming out of there, so there's definitely some moisture still in there. But yeah, I mean, and then some of it didn't look hard. Didn't look gelatin-ish at all. I grabbed a couple of other screenshots as they were running the camera. They had a snake that they were running up in there, and here's one right here, and you can see right here on the side
Saw that.
is some greenish type material that's there, and then there's also in this picture here. Did you guys catch this one as the camera was going in there?
Yeah.
It's like, what in the heck is this up here?
Mold, roots.
Yeah, maybe
roots wouldn't be that deep though.
If it was roots, would that explain the burnt plant too? Like,
oh, maybe.
But those look live, like recent live roots.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I don't either.
Some people in the chat were saying that rather than a meteorite hitting the ground and slamming into the mesa, it was a spacecraft of some sort. Could be. I mean, we had one in Roswell, did we not? Slam into the ground and skid across the ground?
That could be from, to be honest, since it does look like hair, I wonder, and that's not to dispute what you just said, but looking at the hair part of it, an animal could have gone in there and then gotten stuck and tried to get out and been caught on it. That literally could be animal hair because this hole has been opened for so long.
Very good point. And that's what I thought too. I mean, I didn't think that, but I did think it was rather hair-like. But that's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. Let me jump back to that a second. Yeah, that's very plausible.
I mean, it's like stuck up on something. I guess there's no way of knowing unless we got like a close-up visual of it. But
yeah, like I said, I was surprised. As many mice as we get in our camper, just sitting out in our backyard. I can't believe they didn't plug those holes.
Yeah.
I mean, great place for the animals to be during the winter time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you for making us a nice home. We appreciate it.
Yeah, like, oh, is this for us? Yeah. Great.
And plus the rain would have gone down that.
That's what I was
rained down the hole and
all that
could have softened stuff up. But anyway, it worked out okay.
Yeah, it did. Here's another one here. This one right here is kind of I don't know if that's just a black rock, a piece of flint like you saw them pull out, or was this some more of that green, definitely off color, whatever it was right there that so I had to grab that. There was several, and there was a couple that I didn't even get pictures of. There was one on the left wall that was kind of a greenish spot to the wall. So yeah, I mean, definitely some weird things going on. They end up taking, as I mentioned, a vacuum truck. They bring a vacuum truck over and they stick that vacuum hose in there. Oh, one thing I wanted to say too about the camera before I get too far was that when they got to about 200 feet and the camera started to act up and they lost the picture for a moment, it kind of like had to reboot or whatever it was. I kind of went back and listened to the other shows where they had the issue with the beacon and its ability to receive it on the receiver end. Remember, that was about 200 feet, as they had said on the show tonight or last night. Well, and you're in the ground, you're deep in the ground. Have you ever went down in a cave or a cavern and then tried to use your cell phone? Signals
all the time.
Yeah.
That's my weekend activity. Just try my cell phone out in caves.
You're a splunker, huh? You like to go splunking.
That's it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it doesn't work too well. So signals, I mean, you're going to have trouble anyway, but yet, and that camera is like Travis had said on the show, is hooked up with a cord. It's not it's not a Bluetooth. It's not Wi-Fi. It's got a cord. Why would it be
a cable?
Yeah, it's on a cable. Why would it be getting interference at all unless there was a loose connection for a moment? But yeah, that's very interesting. But again, very telling about the situation with because they've got this, what they think is this anomaly, this blob, large blob, or a couple of large blobs, whatever they are, and then some smaller ones in this area that Jan Frankie had discovered when he was doing his GPR. Interesting to note.
Yep. And good to see again repeatability. That
yes,
200 feet came up again.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's going on
yeah
in there, but what? Don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, until we get more on that, if anything else that they put in there, we'll see when they go to drill the second. Well, and I was going to grab this picture and I just didn't get it done tonight before we started, but it was a picture from the first episode showing all the pits. So coming up, they're drilling more than one more hole. Maybe they have trouble with some of them. Maybe some of them they're trying to go up in there. As we will see it going in the episodes to come, we will see them going in and drilling. And do they run into issues? Or are they just doing that many more holes up through the mesa? Well, could be a little both. So the vacuuming process, they went through that. And then we had this right here. And like we were on Discord last night, and like Maya was saying in Discord, initially when I saw this, I started getting things, I started seeing things,
Oh my gosh.
coming out of that mist. The thing opens up and then you hear, sorry, I had to go there.
No, I think it's great.
But you see this, you see this right here and you're thinking, oh my God.
Now I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So Darth Vader coming out of there, whatever. But they did find some other stuff, and they found this little rock here. I thought it was just a rock. I don't know, but again, I'm not holding it in my hand. I'm not examining this thing. I have no idea what it is, but
to me that looks like, I don't know. It looks porous. Like, is that not? I mean, I obviously
I'm a little bit of mud on it.
I like that I'm moving my face in to have you zoom.
Yeah,
the camera.
right.
Well, that's what made me think to zoom it.
Thank you, appreciate it. I could get all the way there. Yeah. Oh well, maybe I don't know. This though reminded me so much of like marine stuff. I don't know. Maybe it is just rock though, and I'm just projecting onto it.
Flint.
Yeah, Eric said flint.
Well, Eric would know, I suppose.
Yeah, well, actually, Travis did too.
It was in his hand.
It's very pitted, yeah. So Sharon said it was very pitted. It looks like slate. It does kind of look like slate, Tanya.
Yeah,
that's what I thought too. They had this piece that they pulled out.
Oh yeah, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of.
Rather smooth.
That being that smooth does, in fact, remind me of something that you would find at the beach.
Yes. Because those kinds of stones with the water action rolling around.
Yeah, it's been water worn. Yeah.
Yep. So we're not sure, but there was more than that. And this is the one thing, and I'm going to bring this up as we talk later on in the episode, because I've got some certain other things that we want to discuss that we don't know, because we only see I think Thomas had said less than 1% of the filming that is done. And we know that over on Curse of Oak Island too, that, we only get a very, very small portion of all the video that is taken. And so this bag that they've got here looks kind of, I didn't get a shot of what was in it. There's more than just those two little rocks in this bag. So will we ever see the rest of them? I don't know, but there were several things that they found in there of interest. They apparently didn't find any more green gelatin like stuff. So we don't know about that, but all right. So that's for this portion of the drill site until later in the program, where we'll get later in the show. They came back to it, and we'll get some more of that as we go along. Yeah, there is moisture in that bag. Yep, absolutely. And so they jump over to the guys from Sky Elements. I mean, I love these guys. I mean, and anytime you could have an opportunity to do an exercise with these guys coming out with their drones, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be a good time, regardless of.
I liked the upside down drones hats. I don't know if I
that's awesome.
Before, I thought that was great. Made me laugh.
Yes. Yeah, they're at least they can joke about some of the things, and they've always seemed to have issues when they come out to the ranch. The first time, they're all kind of cocky when they were there. Hey, we do all these $1 billion shows, blah blah blah. I'm just kind of making fun. I don't know what they were thinking, if that was what they were thinking, but then they ended up with the Pete Kelsey looking at him going, yeah, just wait, you'll see. Yeah, and they did. They got it. They twice, and then raining drones. A drone-ageddon was really good. And again, we're dealing with this space right here, and this is something. They're talking about this 2,000 feet, basically centered around the triangle. Not only above the ground at 2,000 feet, but it only goes about 300 meters under, which is only about 1,200 feet, right? Something like that. At least that's the way that the LiDAR or the terrestrial laser scanner was picking up, which it's not supposed to do that because it can't see underground.
By the way, those terrestrial LiDAR scanners, their range is 400 meters.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't actually see out that far,
right?
Or further than 400 meters, anyway. And yet they're getting strange.
Yeah.
Returns.
Yeah, I had somebody last week who brought that up a couple of times during the podcast, saying, "Oh, the reason it's giving you that dome at 2,000 feet is because that's its limit." I said, "Okay, let me find out," because I didn't know. I didn't know the answer to that. I thought, well, let me go to the man himself and ask Pete Kelsey, and he confirmed what you just said.
Yeah,
its limit is well under 2,000 feet. So how could it be picking up something at 2,000 feet when it doesn't even go that far?
And actually, from their website, that was an updated range as of October of 2024.
Right.
Now she may have brought the latest and greatest prototypes with her, but still, the best it could have done is 400 meters. So,
yeah. Pete was saying right around
out at 600.
350 or so. But yeah, that's not 610. So there you go, folks. And again, like I said, I will, people can throw out stuff all the time. But I'll go to the source like you did. You went to their website, and I got a hold of Pete. I said, "Hey, Pete, what is it?"
I know a guy.
I happen to know
as well.
Knows about these things, and there he was. He answered me almost immediately and said,
"Yeah, Pete is so great.
He is such a great guy.
He really, really. I'm so happy that he's back this season and already been in the first 2 episodes.
I know.
Hopefully, he's in it for the rest of the season because Pete's such a good guy. It's
he's a member of the
to see him on there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Mr. Brown Socks. Yeah. And yeah.
Mr. Brown Socks. I'm sure he loves that too. Pete Brown Socks.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I know, right? So, but anyway, so yeah, we've got that limit on there. So, it picking up out to 2,000 feet, or even the limits of it underground, 300 meters underground, 1,200 feet or so. But so that and seen underground, but we have more, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit as they go to the command center for analysis. All right, so here are the drones. The guys are setting these things up. These are so awesome. I just love these things, if I didn't already say that. They also have them set up to be able to shoot pyrotechnics. I saw shows where they were doing stuff like that, and I thought, isn't that kind of dangerous with a drone? I mean,
yeah.
Apparently not.
I feel like it. Yeah.
Yeah, you see this little tube right here. I'm assuming that's it right there. The pyrotechnic that is attached to it, and to do the thing. The idea behind what they were doing here was to flood this bubble area, this 2,000 foot dome, if you want to call it that, flood it with smoke and light. They're going after every option that they can right now, that they can think of, to try to really see this dome. Right now, the only thing that has really truly seen it is the terrestrial laser scanner, so terrestrial LiDAR. So that's the only thing that is, unless I'm wrong, is that a fair statement that that's the only thing that's seen it so far?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, so they're
I was going to
trying.
say the exact
Go
same
ahead.
thing, Ron. I'm sorry. I was
Go
thinking the
ahead.
same thought as it popped up. It looks like a snow globe.
Snow
This time it
globe.
doesn't look like a bubble to me anymore. I keep thinking that it looks like a snow globe,
Shake
and
it up.
Ron just said it to
Yep.
me. Yeah, just shake it up. See what will
Shake it up.
happen. Put some
That's what they
fireworks
do
in
all the
there.
time.
Some
Yeah,
drones
get
in
some
there.
fireworks, some smoke, let's see what we can do. But
Yeah.
that was the
It
idea.
does
They
look
want
like
to
a
see
snow
this
globe,
perimeter.
though.
It does. And the idea was to have the drones fly directly over the triangle, and yet they had a little issue with that as well. But that was the idea: have it fly directly over and do the pyrotechnics, the sparks and the smoke, and get all that stuff centered right there, and let's see what happens. So there's just a shot getting all the drones all set up. They have the high-speed cameras. Thank goodness that they have those. I don't know. I don't know much about high-speed cameras other than they're really awesome.
Expensive.
And
Yes, and probably very,
yeah.
very expensive. But I'm glad that they utilize these because what they have captured with them just blows the mind. And then they did have another terrestrial laser scanner going there. Pete brought one of his out, got it fired up as well. They also had the fire department on hand, which I thought was a
Smart.
very good idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
very smart. Just in case, when you're messing with fireworks, a good idea to have that on hand.
In the middle of summer with dry
in the middle of
land.
yes, with nice
Yeah.
dry brush and everything around. Yeah, so anytime they're shooting the rockets, I just right off the bat, I'm just especially when you see one lawn dart into the ground and still smoldering. The one that blew up,
Mhm.
last season, it just that always bothers. It just scares me kind of, to know that there could potentially light the place up.
Yep.
I wanted to take a moment to talk about these signals, and it's something that I put into tonight's thumbnail and the title of the podcast, talking about is the ranch, and again, I'm saying the ranch as if it were some sort of an entity. We don't. I know that's a huge stretch to say something like that, but is it possible that they're trying to be communicated with? I mean, they go out and they keep picking up these 1.6 gigahertz signals, and they've explained very well to us that those are for space to ground communications for the government. So they switch over to 1.2 and start using 1.2, and they get a copying signal at 1.2 popping up. And then last night they were getting both 1.2 and 1.6. I'm going to read this real quick. I wonder if the dome has mass. Ergo, is a gravity affected? If so, that could account for the fatter bottom, like a bubble or a ball when it hits the ground. Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That's
Yeah.
an interesting thought. Way to go, Kat. Yeah. Oh, I love it. People bringing up stuff that I don't think of everything. That's why I have co-hosts.
Is that what we're here for? Because you didn't
Absolutely, to add your input. Tell me when I'm wrong and to add more to that. Hey, Jeff, I think that is actually this. Look at that. So what do you think about these communications? Is it possible that the ranch, and this was brought up in our chat, or we were on Discord talking about things when we were watching the show, but is it possible that they're trying to communicate with the guys on the team, and we're not getting the message? I mean, I
I'll let you
can't
you
think
go
so.
first, Mike.
I think a lot of what's happening could be considered communication, not just through a signal like that. I was glad to see them start looking at some of the other frequencies, because we know Eric has said that 1.6 isn't the only frequency that he sees anomalous signals on. He has seen it elsewhere too. 1.6 seems to be the one they focus on the most, but you saw Travis widen out the scope and looked over down to 1.2, and sure enough, there was one there too. So are they communication? It's, I mean, that's not the best frequency to communicate on, not
No.
for what they're trying to do. So, so I don't know, or is it a side effect of something else? I mean, we see it come on anytime they're about to get ready to do something. So is it part of an awareness that there's something going on, and it's triggered, turned on? And you could say that's some kind of surveillance, or it's a monitor system or something. I don't know. I think you kind of have to keep your options open, because it could go just about any direction. And they did use the directional antenna later on, and said it was coming from the direction of the triangle, but that doesn't mean it's coming from the triangle itself.
Correct.
They just know
Correct.
that in 360 degrees on the ground, it was coming from that direction. That's why they have the Kraken, and they need multiple Krakens, and in different configurations, not just horizontal, to figure out if it's coming from up or just. So to me, I would rather, it would help to know if it was something trying to communicate. You knew where it's coming from. And if you knew where it was coming from, that might help you understand what the intent was. Because as far as they've shown us, as far as playing the sound, I mean, that's not necessarily best way to analyze a signal like that, but doesn't sound like anything. So
Right.
Occasionally they'll hear something that might sound a little bit like voices or something, but that was, I don't know. So could be.
What do you think, Shannon? Are we being communicated? What do you folks out there too? While Shannon's talking here, I want to ask you all: do you think that the ranch or whatever is around there, near there, is trying to communicate with the team? Go ahead, Shannon. What do you think?
I mean, I think that it's possible that there's multiple things happening at once. I think we see a lot of like reflective nature happening at the ranch, just to go off the idea of like as above, so below, in terms of their tech, like everything that we're seeing, there seems to be this sort of like reflective nature. So I think maybe some of it could be that to some capacity, that without realizing it, maybe they're bumping into something and it's coming back to them. It could be somebody that's listening in and messing with the system. That's not anything unusual, but just like is aware that the ranch is doing stuff, meaning that guys are doing something and they've decided to mess with them. And then it could also be a third thing, which is an unexplainable type of communication. And maybe that's why it's so hard to pin down what it is, because a multitude of things could be happening, or two of those three things could be happening, or, it seems like, especially now with, I think what we've seen in the previews for the upcoming season, and just kind of like, as the show has gotten progressively more popular, there's probably more opportunity for people to be messing with them in that capacity.
Oh, absolutely.
Not to say that that's it. I definitely want to make it clear that I don't think that's what it is 100% of the time. But I think that it makes it very difficult to now parse through stuff to see like what's going on. And I do find it interesting that there does seem to be a lot of like very strange reflective activity that happens there. Like it's like a bowl. Like if you're hitting a signal someplace, I mean, I don't, because this isn't my domain, but that's how I imagine it. So it just makes me wonder if there's multiple things that are possibly that are going on. And maybe 90% of the time it's somebody communicating, but 10% of the time it's something else. And that's what makes it so confusing.
Yep. Yeah. That's a great point about the bowl that you said, like being the signal being reflected back to them, because I know that's how HF works, high frequency works in radio signals. It bounces off. I think it's the one of the layers. I forget, not the ionosphere, but it bounces off and it goes and it keeps going around the planet by bouncing. So is it possible that it is bouncing inside of a dome or something and being reflected back? That's a great point. So are your other things that you said too. And don't forget, like a couple of people have said, Angie just said it right there. I living. Remember that? I mean, that was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that was pretty crazy.
Hey, he's still using. I drew that cupcake for Frank, but he's still using it. That's an image that I drew. It's hilarious.
Thank you, Frank, very much. And Craig, thank you. I saw that pop up there. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. I really do. It definitely helps to keep the show going. So I appreciate it. But yeah, so but a lot of good points on that. But it's like recorded, they've listened to it and you hear that clickety sound. Don't have any idea what that is, but record these signals that you're picking up and try to figure out some way of analyzing it. If you remember the movie Contact.
Oh yeah.
I know it was just a movie. And it's all.
I mean, it came from someplace. It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It was actually instructions embedded into a signal. So.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying. Is like it could be something that's being reflected off, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't also have information in it.
Correct.
Right. Like it could be initiated and the whole thing could be happening because the ranch is doing something or the team is doing something. But that doesn't also mean that there couldn't be something that's like, I'm going to use this word anyways, hitchhiking onto the back of the signal. I feel like you have to be really careful about saying hitchhike with this, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just kind of like riding the wave, I suppose.
Riding the wave, yeah, exactly. Good.
Yeah,
good stuff.
To analyze the sound, you really have to look at it because, like I said, everybody wants to know what it sounds like. That's not really the best way to analyze a signal in the gigahertz frequency. It's not meant for voice. In fact, the 1.2 gigahertz is unregulated, so you can use it for whatever. That's why Eric picked it. 1.6 is actually part of the GPS system. It's the L1 signal, which is why it's probably not great to have something broadcasting on 1.6 gigahertz when you're trying to do high precision GPS guided drones and other stuff. It can interfere with what they're trying to do. So, and if it was military, yes, it would be encrypted, and you would not be able to get it unless you had the corresponding military radio to be able to
Eric
decode
is now
it.
in the chat.
Look at that.
Correct. All right. Piggybacking. That's a good way instead of saying hitchhiking.
There you go.
Piggybacking.
Sorry. That did not come into my mind.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it like, I don't know. Yeah. Yes.
Well, when you home. Yeah, so we know about that, huh? But yeah, so that's great. That's a good point on that because the communication, you wonder about that. I often wonder about that part of it, and that's why I did the thumbnail the way I did in the description because is it possible? We've seen the living and all of that. Is the ranch trying to communicate or something trying to communicate in some way? And somebody had mentioned in there, hey, Eric is on it. He'll know what to do. I have no doubt. But does he have time to do all of that? Don't know. So with all of this happening out there, the thing that they were trying their best to do was to keep the drones over the center of, excuse me, the center of the triangle. And I want to mention too real quick that the triangle that it's called the triangle because of the roads. There's people say, why a triangle? Oh my gosh, all these other shows use triangle, blah blah blah. Well, it's because of the roads, and this seems to be where the activity is.
I asked at the beginning of the program, I asked Eric if it had naturally formed, and that's what he told us, right? That it had seemingly naturally formed as a place of travel.
Because that road used to be public.
Right.
Okay.
Or it used to be open. Bigelow closed it. He's the one that put the fences up.
I actually did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did ask because I was like, is that how is this formed? Like, it wasn't something that they intentionally made. It just traffic happened to naturally gravitate there.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, if you're taking those roads, you can rather than coming to a stop and turn right, you can just why your way over and make a so, but as we all know, a lot of crazy activity happens in this spot. And this is where it seems to be where this dome is originating from, the center point of this dome. So that was the idea, to get these drones right over top of this area. And you saw during the episode so many different variations. Everybody is saying that, you heard Travis talking about the fact that they're not even close. That they were out over the road that goes off into the south field, which I'm thinking he was talking about. So figuring north is probably this way. So south road, going maybe this one down here on the bottom, or this road over here. So it was out centered over those roads instead of being over the triangle. Now that brings up the whole issue with the GPS. Were all these drawn, and we didn't have the issues that we normally have seen with them and the GPS tracking on these getting foobarred because of this area. They all flew very well, and they stayed in formation as far as we could tell in the show. Again, we don't get all of the film, but it looked like they were all staying in formation. Everything worked well. And
Yeah,
yet they weren't lined up.
It's strange that all of them weren't lined up.
Right. The whole,
like it wasn't like a few of them. It was the entire structure wasn't lined up.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but there you go. The formation of these was perfect. And even though they've started with some of the ones in the past, like last season, they started off being almost perfect. They had some that didn't even get off the ground. But as you saw, the raining drones is because they thought they were someplace else, too far outside of their zone of safety, and they dropped to the ground because of that. I think that's like the third fail safe is to drop to the ground, and that's what they did because they thought they were somewhere else when they were in fact where they were supposed to be. So yeah, the entire group of them was off course. Yep, that's right, Jake. So at least they were all together and staying that way. So this one here, the pyrotechnics on this was fascinating. Fill it with light, fill it with smoke. This area, if you were centered, which it wasn't, but fill it with all the smoke to see if there's some way that you can help to determine this bubble area. Somebody had, I think it was Maddie Blake, had made the comment about, blowing a regular bubble, and then the smoke inside of it. That's the image that he got from that. I kind of figured that's what they were attempting to do here.
After Droneageddon, the idea of strapping fireworks to a bunch of drones overhead
to fall on your head. Yes. Yeah.
Could you imagine if it had gone rogue like the last time they had this huge formation with the fireworks on it? That's a huge amount of trust to put into
that is a terrible amount of trust. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They did at least have helmets on.
Yeah.
This time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't blame them.
Caleb running around with the helmets on. They're a very good idea. Remember last year it was Dragon and them running into fireworks chasing.
Potential to go just terribly, terribly wrong.
And the fire that would start all over the place if they
like
were just
everywhere.
Dropping.
It could have just everything could have burnt down.
Could have went very, very bad.
Yeah, very, very bad.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it didn't.
The ranch insurance must be a small fortune. Yes, probably is. Probably is. But the idea, and again, like I said, them throwing all these different exercises at this problem to try to be able to, get to a point where they could see the dome whenever it was active. Finding a way to do that, throw everything, all the science at it, throw all this different science at it to see if you can figure out a way to repeatability. Thank you, Marilee. To be able to actually get the repeatability to see this dome rather than just the terrestrial laser scanner. So there you go. But stunning stuff. I mean, great ideas. Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question, and this is going to sound really stupid, but if we're talking about I guess this brings to mind the difference between a rocket and a firework, right? Mm-hmm. Like in concept, very similar in terms of shooting a projectile up. It's got the flames. So the concept is similar. The difference would be the force and the actual mechanisms behind how they work, right? Like what they put into the atmosphere, what it does to the atmosphere. Is that incorrect to think that way? Because originally I'm like, oh, the idea of shooting a rocket up is just, you're just basically shooting, it's this projectile that does have fire, and it's doing this thing. Fireworks, same sort of deal though, but to a less degree in terms of how it affects the literal atmosphere, the energy that's required to make it be a projectile. Am I making sense? I know I'm not talking science.
I'm going to let engineer Mike handle that one.
Oh,
so,
sure.
okay. So
Mike.
obviously I understand the difference between a firework and a rocket in terms of energy that's required, what it's actually doing. So what does that say then for this many fireworks going off and not having like a fleet of things show up in comparison to a singular rocket going off? Am I making sense of the question?
It says to me that it's not the energy that's triggering that.
Okay.
Wow.
It's the fire itself. It's the action, the speed.
Okay.
I mean, that's there's a few other things, but you're right. The energy, I mean, that was probably significantly more energy than a single rocket was released by all those drones.
Yep.
Okay.
So clearly that energy didn't trigger, UAPs to appear in the distance like you see sometimes with the rockets. So that must not be it. So what else is left that a rocket does that the fireworks didn't?
Fireworks didn't.
And the rocket goes very fast.
Good point.
To me, that would make maybe more sense that it's the speed of it.
Okay.
But who knows? There could be the chemical, different chemical reaction. Could be,
if that's the
there's
case,
lots of different variables.
Okay. If it's the speed, then does it matter if a rocket is a DUT or whatever he called it to be? Like if it doesn't like make an explosion and come down or what have you, it's still hitting its speed, is it not? It's just not exploding. Yeah. So does it even matter then if it doesn't explode, if it has to do with the speed and not the explosion?
Yeah. No, I think they've had stuff show up, UAP show up just from firing a rocket, whether the parachute pops or not, or whether it's a long dart, just comes straight back down and smashes into the ground. It doesn't matter. When they fire a rocket up through the triangle, they usually get some kind of a response.
So that makes me think that it's, like if you throw a dart really fast at something, it's going to pierce it, where if you don't throw it as fast, it's going to bounce off of it. So is that a possibility?
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Oh, good for me. See, I make contributions as well, even without
absolutely.
my mic props. I should have had a dart and a bubble ready.
You should have had one ready for that. Yep. Yeah.
Maybe next time.
The fireworks on the drones are called waterfalls. They do not.
They don't do anything
like release a shower of sparks.
But have they done fireworks there before? Which I feel like
I thought they did. Weren't they shooting off some with a rocket? They had a rocket go, or they were shooting off some fireworks last season at something. I forget what it was. And they did get a response. There was a UAP did show up, but I thought they were doing something with that last year, weren't they? I could have swore I remember having fireworks.
I feel like I definitely remember fireworks at some point, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Yep. The mortars. They had the mortars going. Thank you, John.
But it does make me think now, though, that maybe the rocket is simply just like popping the bubble.
Very well could be. Something moving quickly.
The difference between
that's a great point. I hadn't really thought about that like that in that sense before. But the rocket is, and people ask that question all the time. Why do they shoot so many rockets? Because it gets a response.
Yeah,
it seems to be something that kicks the hornet's nest.
Early on, we had asked Caleb why. Kind of feel like maybe rockets have run their course, or why do you keep firing off? I mean, what's the big deal? Why often do you get a response? And he's like 80 to 90%. We're like, oh, we should fire more rockets. Let's
Exactly.
get more rockets.
And besides, who doesn't
because
love
it
to
works. It's easy. It's cool. Obviously, Travis may enjoy it.
He's
a
the
little
rocket
bit.
shoot?
man.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, he might get a little
Rocket City redneck.
shoot.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. That's yeah. Interesting, especially in the context in which it doesn't necessarily matter if it does its full
what it was.
rocket job.
Mhm.
Like it still normally gives
He truly is a
some
rocket
response.
scientist. Yep.
He's a literal rocket scientist.
Yes, he is. I like that, Michelle. Thank you very much. They shot fireworks from the Mesa while shooting rockets up from the Triangle, season 5. Cameron and the Gila was watching from the air. Yep,
they did them like
yeah.
that.
So I guess there's no way of using that as a comparative tool, though, because they would have been at the same exact time.
Yeah, right. You wouldn't have been able to say that this one got a response, but that did not. In that case, right? Yeah.
The interesting thing though was the offset. In my mind, the all of the drones were in the wrong place perfectly.
Yeah.
So might be another question for Pete Kelsey is RTK is real-time kinematics, and that's sometimes you'll see those on the ground around the tents. It'll be on a tripod, and it's one of those little round, like a round white dome.
Mhm.
And it's another GPS receiver, but it's adding corrections to the signals that the drones are getting from satellites, so that you can be significantly more accurate. I mean, if you look at your cell phone, it's only so accurate down to several feet or yards, but with RTK you can be within centimeters of accuracy. Very accurate. So it's providing correction. Question would be, could it have provided incorrect correction and caused it to be where it, the column to be where it shouldn't be? And could they have real time changed the location that they wanted the tower to be and lie to it and put the point 50 meters north of where it was, so that it would effectively negate the offset and be over the triangle? I think they still got plenty of interesting stuff. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I wonder if they, in moments like this, if they were paying attention to like that time skip thing that happens.
That would be a question
plays
for
into
Eric.
GPS. I remember Pete talking about that, like how GPS and time and all of that stuff works together. So I wonder, I mean, it's may not be show up on the show, but I'm curious if at that point the camera times were off, because it's a rhythmic thing, which would like imply this sort of cyclical nature to it that would keep it going. Yeah, I don't know. The idea that they were all off, though, is very, very, very.
Yes,
very
they did, Seth. You're right. That one did. It said the one GPS data was like down in the Bermuda Triangle area somewhere. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I remember that now. Barbara, I don't know. So the response is a 1.6 megahertz sound that is aimed where? And is the ill health the intention of it, or is it something else?
We don't know.
I don't know. Good question. Don't have an answer for that one at all. But in this case, even when they don't, like this one here, they didn't really, or did they not get a response? We will show what they found in the post data review after, and they met in the command center with this right here, the Christmas tree of fireworks. They did see something. We'll get to that in just a few. But even if they don't get a response, that's still data. That's still data to collect, because this may not have worked, but or it didn't give them the data they thought. But as Pete shows later on, in the command center, we'll get to this in just a little bit. Some of the stuff that Pete had picked up tells a different interesting story that might confirm things changing, not always being the same all the time on here. So anyway, so like we were saying before, this was the idea, was to get the drones to make the cylinder or make the cone, the Christmas tree, whatever you want to call it, directly over the triangle. Did they? I'm going to ask this question. Did they make it public, the thing that they had done, the markers that they had put out, had created, that Thomas was? I know we knew about it in the insider group, but they did those concrete markers. Those have to do with GPS and stuff?
Brandon posted it on X.
He made it public, right? Okay.
Yep.
Were those GPS markers? What were those exactly? I've forgotten now. I know we were looking
I think that's the location where they did the scans.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. All right.
Maybe.
I know they had put those markers out in several places around the ranch.
Maybe if Eric's still around, he can.
Yeah, I don't remember
that or not.
I didn't know if that had anything to do with the GPS or not. But anyway, okay. So this was the idea, was to put these right here, get them right centered right over. Yes, they are GPS markers. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. So that would help, would it not? I mean, when you, I know that they were looking at this. Some of the crew was out in the field off to the east looking at this. Some of the crew was at the south watching this because they didn't want to be directly underneath the drones when all this stuff was happening, even though Caleb and Pete were getting close to doing just that. The perspective of things, because you heard, Thomas, when he was looking out there and he's looking on the computer and he's, looking on the computer and it's saying that it's lined up exactly. But when he was standing out and looking in the sky at them, he didn't go, oh no, they're off. They still looked right to him from his perspective. Right. I mean, I would assume that's the case. Because he didn't get back on the radio and say, no, they look fine to me. And yet Travis is saying, well, they're way off the mark. This is what they were seeing on the computer right over the ranch. And there they are. There's all right over the triangle. There's all the drones. But as you can see, they weren't. That's kind of a cool shot right there. You can see that it's not really, it's a little bit off. A little bit too far to the south, I would think there.
But again, for that to happen twice, for it to be offset and in the wrong spot, roughly about the same distance too. I don't know if it was in the exact same location as the firework one, but 2 times in a row, offset from where it should be.
Right.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Very odd.
I think Travis was saying 30 to 40 meters. Yeah. 30 meters offset. Yeah, exactly. And right, Navy Dogs mentioned that's kind of what I was saying too, is that maybe his angle made it look like it was right on from his perspective.
That's exactly. I thought it was a force. Yeah, sorry. Right? I was going to say when it first started, I thought it was a forced perspective issue until it continued on. And then I was like, oh no, this is a real thing. But I for sure thought it was a forced perspective problem at the beginning.
That's what I was thinking too. But so Travis decided to shoot a rocket up through. His idea with the cylinder one was to shoot a rocket up through it. Again, to elicit some sort of response and to see what what might happen to this. Would it hit something? Would it light something up? Would it show some sort of evidence that there's something there, i.e. the dome or the blob, that thing that they saw that the rocket seemed to fly into and blow up last year. So he shot the rocket anyway. And he says, well, if you heard what he said, he kept saying it's off. You're not lined up. It's not over the triangle. He says, well, you'll see when I fire this rocket. Well, we saw when they fired the rocket. It wasn't right over it. And I thought, oh my gosh, when he said, I'm going to fire it anyway, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to hit. Some of the drones are going to get hit and knocked out of the sky with this rocket. Obviously, they gave him the go ahead because he fired it anyway. And there it is going up through there. But you see, it is inside the cylinder of drones, but it is going up the side of them, very close to the one edge. This picture, I just love it because of, the guys are doing experiments, and there's a thunderstorm bearing down. I don't know if it's going by, which, how close it was getting to them, but did you notice that as the show was going on in the dark,
Yep.
there was a lot of lightning happening, and yet there they
Yeah.
are. To the left side of the tower. Oh, you talk about this picture?
Yeah, and I was reading something about like that specific part of Utah and lightning, how it affects things because of how it's shaped in the basin. So it's interesting to think that it was happening at the same time too.
Yeah.
Because didn't we hear thunder at one point, or we saw
Yes.
like a crack of lightning or something?
Yes.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
that's intense to be outside with
that
with these equipment.
Talk about electromagnetic interference, and then you've got lightning happening in the region, and so
absolutely.
Since they can't stand right under where the experiment is being held for safety reasons, could they instead place a camera? Place a camera there that could see what is actually above instead of just relying on GPS. I thought they did. I don't know. There was a couple of times where their camera was showing. But it was one of the production cameras, I'm assuming, was somebody running down there and taking a shot straight up.
Yeah. It looked to me like a cameraman ran in and pointed straight up.
Yeah. But whether or not they have a camera right there, I don't think so. I don't know that, but I don't think so. I know there's a gazillion cameras around this ranch, but whether there's one right there on the tower looking up, I don't know the answer to that. But that would have told him right away if you're, centered over the triangle or not. So this is that zoomed in. I think this is that, what do they call the drone that's first person?
FPV.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what this is. Nobody made any comment about it, but I thought that's maybe what that was. Flying.
It was hard to tell from a still.
Yeah. And it was just, I remember during this, when I grabbed the screenshot, it wasn't moving. It was stationary, at least in the moment. And they only show these screens for a moment. You only get a moment's view of it. But I don't remember it moving. And I thought to myself, oh, that's that drone that the guy's flying around with the first person view on that. But again, this picture is just awesome. Just with that. And again, there you go up here. Is that drone again right there? I don't know. I think it is, but I don't know. Assuming it is.
So now I'm thinking about the drones all being one off, and it makes me think about the helicopter being to the side as well. When Cameron's been up and he's not over where he thought he was, or whomever was in a helicopter. It's a helicopter, right? Or a plane?
Yep.
Yep.
And they were supposed to have been over a specific place, but they weren't. This I just think is more compelling because it's so many drones that were all off.
Yep. Every one of them. Yeah, there was a time where maybe it could have been Venus. I don't know. There was a time when I think the drone or the helicopter was actually following a vehicle that was driving along the road, and the positioning of the helicopter to the vehicle was way off.
Yeah.
And Cameron's perspective was way off because he thought he was where he was supposed to be when in fact he wasn't. And his navigation told him elsewhere too.
Which reminds me of like, I can't remember the name of the phenomenon, but when you're like looking through a pool or when you're looking up at the stars, or like, but a better example would probably be when you're looking at a coin at the bottom of a pool.
Yep.
How there's that seemingly
refraction.
That's what it is. Thank you, Mike. I knew we kept you around for some reason besides the props. Refraction.
I'll be here all week.
I like that Michelle put it in all caps in the chat. Refraction. Okay. So that's what it reminds me of. I think, especially like if we're working off this idea of a bubble.
A bubble. Would the bubble cause
there's some sort of like weird refraction happening?
Yep. Which is again why you would do things like the fireworks. The fireworks could work for so many different things. The drones up there being off, but then the fireworks, the smoke, the light, and the refraction, would it change how you see them? Would it be shimmering or like looking at it through water or something?
But like, what would the GPS refraction be? I guess is
Ooh,
what I'm trying to get at,
time.
because it wasn't, the visual was accurate, the GPS was off.
Mhm.
I don't know. It was the computer system that was not working. Like that's what wasn't aligning to it.
I like the time thing, the time signature, the timestamp is
Oh
off.
yeah, I'd like to know about the timestamp in this as
That's how
well.
the GPS works, right, Mike? You've
Yeah.
explained that a few times. It works off of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's time of flight from the GPS satellite to the receiver.
Right.
It uses highly accurate clocks. So if the clock isn't right, it's going to tell you you're someplace else.
Oh, there you go. Perhaps a temporal
prism. Yeah. There you go.
There's
It's
something.
there's Eric. It's 100% a matter of timing. So Eric, I don't know if you were here a little while ago when we asked if there was anything recorded for time during that period that was like weird and off. Did you guys have any time anomalies that you have on record that just weren't shown? Hi, Pete.
Yeah.
We were talking about you and your brown socks earlier. Now that you're in here talking about your white whale.
His white whale, the time of the GPS, the timing of it. Yeah, yes. And could that be distorted by inside this bubble? Absolutely. Why not? It's plausible. We don't know what the bubble is actually doing or why it's there yet. But I would stand on the Skinwalker Mesa and say that it does exist now. I think they've proven that it's there. What it is or why it's there or what it causes or what it can do, we have no idea yet. Maybe they're getting close to it, understanding that. But yeah, it's but enough science has been thrown at it to show that it is there. And I think once they get to the point where they can actually find it whenever it shows up or see it whenever it shows up, I think that's going to be key. And to keep throwing science at it until you figure that out, right?
What happens then, though? Is the show over? Does it morph into a new type of show, like a Mork and Mindy or like a Resident Alien?
Nanu. Yeah. Well, that's what that. Remember that.
Right.
Remember that orb that they that Caleb and Dragon saw on the camera on the trail cam that snapped that shot of that orb in the field, that white orb. That was Mork's egg.
Wouldn't that be nice? Which part? The Mork and Mindy part, or the show is over?
Or being able to see it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Be able to press a button and the bubble is exposed.
Yeah. They would have some way of knowing, and then they would concentrate on there and go, oh, it's up right now. There's the dome. Something's happening. Let's see what happens. And then it's gone. Some sort of a force field or something. I know this is it's getting really intriguing. Certainly is. Okay, so let's jump over back to the Mesa again real quick. They are starting their drill again to get the second. Well, actually, no, this is still back to the first borehole. Trying to get this borehole, they're going to run the same drill head back up through it one more time, clean it out, and then they're going to put on this larger drill head and pull it back and widen the hole, make it bigger, so then they can put some sort of a coating in there. How they do that coating, I have no idea. But we'll hopefully get to see that as the season unfolds here. But as they're getting ready to do all of this, here's a little look at what they were going to do. They can put sensors in once they get this lining in there of whatever kind of lining this is they're going to put in this borehole. Then they can put sensors in there. But they started having problems right away with the calibration of the drill head. They put a little sensor in there or a transmitter in there, and they have to calibrate it with the receiver, and they couldn't get it to calibrate. They did, and then it dropped, and it locked. I didn't quite catch or understand. He said it had to be done manually, and I don't understand what that meant, but he said it was locked.
That was before they tried to sync them up. You went to go turn the drill head on, and he said he checked it prior, and made sure everything was ready to go. They went away, did something else, came back, and it was locked, and the battery was dead, and the lock has to be done manually. Like you have to press and hold a button for 3 seconds, kind of like a child lock on
Right.
on something electronic or something like that, I would assume anyway. And so they had to put Skinwalker Ranch likes to eat batteries.
Mm-hmm.
His favorite meal.
Yep. Put a new battery in it and all of that, and they couldn't get it to calibrate or sync up. And then, Travis had a fantastic idea. Hey, let's take it outside of the bubble, outside of the interference zone, and see if it happens. And it calibrated just like that.
And by the way, why don't you go to the creepiest place on the ranch, Homestead 3? Really? No thanks.
Yeah.
Homestead 2 is outside of the bubble. You can see it right there.
Homestead 2 is, absolutely. But you can see that's why I grabbed this screenshot here, because you can see that's the drill site. That's where they're drilling right here into the Mesa, and yet it's inside of the zone of interference. And as soon as they stepped outside of that, it synced right up, no problem at all. And I guess it did, even though it wavered. There was a signal. The signal was going up and down or wavering. It did stay synced, I guess, when they came back. But then they said, well, we're going to have to revisit this tomorrow.
But the fact that they were able to get it immediately to work, it wasn't working in the bubble. They go outside the bubble, immediately it works. Again, repeatability and validation that bubble is a good representation of a zone where there's clearly fairly continuous interference of some kind.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. And it's messing with more than just that. Helicopter, radio signal and all that kind of stuff going on. Grab this picture here just because I saw this on this guy's helmet. I think that's Alex on the side of his helmet. Isn't that from the show Yellowstone? We just started watching that, and it's kind of a disturbing show. But I thought that was the Yellowstone.
Is it? Yellowstone's a disturbing show.
It is, in a sense that it's kind of brutal. A lot of brutal scenes in it. Men fighting men, and this, Kevin Costner, not a good guy in that show. Anyway, so what do we got? The edge of the bubble is Jay's tree. Think about what's happening at the bubble edge and how it affected him and his team back in the OSAP days. Yes, exactly. Remember what they got to that? Remember he was telling that story? They got to that tree, and nobody wanted to take another step. That's being affected. Your body and your mind being affected at the ranch big time.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff to go back through to see, like, oh, was this within this section that this happened? All the stories and things now make me want to revisit where these things took place in proximity to this bubble.
Yeah.
Not to say that weird things couldn't happen outside of it, but just the more intense stories.
Yeah. More intense things happen inside that bubble area, and you look at even that with the helicopter going back and forth and flying through it so many times, back and forth, and having the issues that it did, dropping out, and it's just, it's crazy. It still happened elsewhere within the bubble and very rarely outside of the bubble, but concentrated over the triangle.
Interesting.
Just crazy. Here we are looking at the different signals they're receiving at the time, and this is where I go back to that. Is the ranch trying, or something trying to communicate with them? Because it all seems to happen whenever they're getting ready to fire up an experiment. Then they start getting these signals. But otherwise, it doesn't happen too much. But then you get this. And so they look to see which direction it's coming from. And as Mike had mentioned earlier, I think Travis said it's coming from the center of the triangle. Well, he means that direction. We don't know that it's coming from the center of the triangle. It's coming from that direction. And that's something that I think is very, very important to have, like the Kraken, being able to tell you where these signals are coming from, which direction, because they shouldn't be. If 1.6 gigahertz is being used from space to ground, it should be picking it up I don't know. I mean, but coming from the center of or coming from the direction of the triangle is very telling, isn't it?
Yep. A little suspicious.
Little suspicious. All right. So we jump into the analysis of it as they get to the command center and they start talking over some of the things that they had. This is where I get kind of taken back a little bit by Pete's data that he comes up with. Well, all their data, quite honestly, but this one here, I grabbed this picture here because I noticed it's not the same picture that Jim Royston got when he did his LiDAR and he had that circle over the triangle, that black hole that was very large. I saw this and I thought, oh my gosh, it's reminiscent of that same thing, but I don't believe it was, even though you're seeing that hole there. Is that from the stationary mount? It doesn't see directly below the tripod or whatever?
Yeah, this is the terrestrial laser, so it won't see directly underneath itself.
Right.
But that's an appropriate size hole, which is small compared to what the one that Jim Royston, that one came from a drone that was up higher.
Correct. Yeah, it was flying over the area. You're right. Yeah. Yep. You notice a few things strange about this, and there's some holes in the data down here. Was it being blocked by something? Could be. I don't know if there was something blocking the.
Those are shadows.
Yeah,
those are shadows from bushes or tents or
things in the way.
Just can't see past.
Right. But then you had this. And you see this right here, folks. And here's a highlighted color. They colorized it so we could see it a little bit better. Is that not making a dome? Yeah, those are shadows. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. And what did Pete say? That it was about 2,000 feet high.
Well, now, past the range of
the
LiDAR.
Past the range of the terrestrial laser scanner, right? And something that Eric had said, I think it was Eric that said this during the show, was that it's not always there. So, I mean, if this thing is firing up or shutting down, firing up and shutting down based upon a need or activity of some sort, then this could be the start of it firing up. Looks like the bubble's edge to me. It does to me too.
Yeah, it does to me too.
Absolutely. I mean, it's making that arcing shape to it going across right there. And again, with Pete saying it's about 2,000 feet up, can we say repeatability again? This is crazy. This is really crazy.
I feel like we're going to be saying that a lot this season. This is crazy. This is really crazy.
It is. It's truly remarkable.
It truly, I mean, it really honestly is.
Yeah. And definitely shows a curvature to it. That's, yeah. Repeatability. Nice. Yeah. But again, I think about that because, the turning it on, turning it off, there's no reason to assume that the feature that we are calling a bubble is invariant, static, or unstructured.
Yeah.
Yeah. Repeatability.
I just saw Pete's thing. Is that what you guys were? I was in my mind. Did you see repeatability?
Yeah. Repeatability.
That's right. Pete and repeat.
Yeah, he'll be here all week. Did you had something about some radiation to talk to us about too, right? Let's see. And then of course the dome, showing that dome. They put the little graphic up of showing that dome over everything. That was pretty cool. And then we've got this little. We'll talk about this real quick, and then we'll get onto your. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Bad things happen when they dig in the bubble. This little thing here. I watched this over and over and over again to try to see if I could figure out what it was, and the best I could come up with was, and they don't happen too much at nighttime, but a bird flying into it and getting burned or whatever by the stuff, and down he goes. But
Oh,
because there was one little scene here, and I'm going to play this real quick. Now, this is looking at the, oops, let me back up. This is following when they were following it, this item as it was coming down. And you'll see the circle pop up. There it is there. It's falling at a steady speed. But there was one scene where I thought that maybe it had, and now this is Eric making it go backwards. Right there. It looked like it was almost had wings to it.
if it was falling, did it hit the ground?
Yeah, it must have.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
Should have.
Unless
Yeah,
it
I
went
wondered
through
if they went out after that
and looked for
and
it.
looked to see if there was something there.
Yeah.
No, if it's a bird or a bat, what an unfortunate time to be flying through the air,
Yeah.
right into the center of
See
it.
how right there. I mean, he's playing it backwards, of course, but and it kind of changes and moves a little bit as it's flying or as it's
Like it's
falling.
tumbling. Yeah.
Is it tumbling?
It's
Yeah.
that medicine ball that Caleb dropped
Oh, it
3
came
seasons
back.
ago.
Missing medicine
That
ball.
medicine ball.
Finally,
Oh my gosh.
could you imagine? That would be
Or the rocket.
like,
the
you'll
big
never believe it's the medicine ball.
that wouldn't. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be Portal all around, all the way.
Yeah, they're yeah.
I wonder if what they would find if they follow the directions of the points of the triangle to the edges of the dome
Hmm.
and excavated those 3 areas. There's a thought.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ron. By the way, I saw that pop up. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. Really do. So anyway, we don't know what that was. Something that was falling out of the sky while they were doing that experiment, or that exercise. And I thought the same thing though, Shannon. Was it laying on the ground? Did they need to run out there and go get it and take a look at it?
Right.
To
I
be able
mean,
to determine what it was. I don't know.
if it was storming though, I don't know if it actually stormed. Did they just like gather their things and go in? It was dark. How would you know? It could have been eaten overnight if it was a bird that fell or something. I don't really know.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't hear that part of it. On Beyond the Gates, they did mention that they heard something hit.
Oh,
But I assume nothing was found. I didn't catch that. I thought they mentioned they heard something hit, but found nothing. Oh, okay. Wow.
yeah.
Good catch. I did not hear that. Interesting. So yeah, whatever that was that came tumbling out of the sky. This is the one that gets me a little bit here. This is the rocket going up, and they have shown here. Caleb actually caught these right there. You see this little thing right here show up in that red circle. And then here, and then there. Now, I'm going to say that this one, it looks like Caleb said, it looked like it was running at an angle down across the screen this way. And then you have that one that shows up right at the end. But something else that I noticed while I was watching this, and again, I played this over and over and over again. But what is that? This was something that only shows up in that same slide with that particular orb. It's and I can't zoom in on it because it's a video running, but it's this right here. It looks like a little distortion or something, or so I can't zoom in, Ron. I'm sorry, Roy. I'm sorry. I didn't have a screening of this, and I should have. I could probably get one and show it, but it's this little thing right here, and it almost looks see-through almost. And I'm gonna back this up, and I'll show you. It only shows up on this particular shot. You don't see it there. You don't see it there. There it is. Right there.
Hmm.
What the heck is that?
there were some other distortions
Mhm.
with the lights
Yep.
that you could see. I almost wondered if it wasn't sprinkling at that point. I mean, we saw lightning.
Oh, yeah.
Like a
And
glare, like a light glare through
Yeah.
water or something.
yeah, yes,
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe. I'll have to ask Pete or Eric if it was raining at all during this experiment. We saw the thunder and lightning in the background. We heard the thunder and saw the lightning in the background, but yeah, reflects like a reflection off a body of water or something. Yeah. Yeah, I know more questions, but I caught that, and it's only in that one frame, in that single frame. It shows up and then it's gone, but only when
Mhm.
that one frame right there. Yeah, for a second, however long that one frame is. And then when it's changed, see, it's gone now, completely gone. And then right there it is. See, only when that one frame, when the orb is right there, there's that circle. I don't know. Salsa in 5 minutes? No, it's not supposed to happen tonight. I thought it was tomorrow night. Constance, that's what I heard.
Nope.
That's
Tomorrow.
why we were. That's why I was running long here. Not too concerned about the time. Okay, yeah, good. It's tomorrow. I was hoping it hadn't changed. So there you go. So that's I thought was pretty interesting there. Um, um, the oops, hang on one second. Now on this next one here, I do have. This is the one that really brought into question for me what we were really seeing here, and I'm going to bring this one up Thursday at 9 p.m., 7 p.m. ranch time. Okay. This was the blue light. Remember when the rocket was coming down? This is while Caleb was still standing up by the TV screen, and they were noticing, and he caught that, the orb or the little lights that were showing up in the sky that we just highlighted with the red circle. Or they did. They highlighted it with the red circle. While he was up there and they're continuing on, you see the rocket, what looked like the lawn dart, was heading down very quickly and hit the ground. And it looked like the light of it got blocked out. Now we know without a fact, a couple of things here that I'm going to point out because I'm wondering what this actually was. That what blocked it out? Was it blocked out or was it a blinking light on the side of the rocket? Because we know that, remember the helicopter that disappeared while they were watching. That helicopter showed up at the ranch at night when they were performing the blob, when they saw the blob experiment, and they were all talking about it. And that helicopter showed up. They all saw the lights on it, and then it disappeared as it went behind the blob. The light, they couldn't see it anymore. They couldn't see the lights of it. It completely blacked out. And then as it passed by, they saw it again. And I think there was another camera view that showed that it didn't disappear at all.
Right.
So
Yep.
something blocking the light of the helicopter from that particular camera's point of view. The answer was it certainly looks like it. And they've had some other things. There was a rocket last year that disappeared for a split second. Did it go behind something? There's been other cases of this as they've gone along. The disappearance of the fast-moving FPV drone as it flew behind something quite large. So what I was on this one here, this first clip you're going to see here, this first part of the clip is of the launch tower where the rocket was. And down at the bottom, you're going to be looking down at the bottom of the screen, right in the middle, in the bottom, and you're going to see what I think is a blue light blinking on the side of the rocket prior to its launch. Now, and I got to qualify this a couple ways and say that, first of all, we're not there. And we only see a very small percentage of the film that's actually taken. I don't know how many rockets they even launched that night. Don't even know for sure. Could have been more than one. And again, the other thing I want to qualify is that we know that the production company loves to do fancy editing, I'm going to call it, to make something appear or words
enticing editing.
Yes, there you go. Yes, yes. To keep the viewers coming
Enticing
back.
editing. Yeah.
As if, like, as Mike
Keep
said,
you
as if they
enticed.
needed to here.
Yeah.
Right. They don't need to.
They don't
Yeah.
need to do stuff like that at Skinwalker Ranch. Just go with the show, and you got something that'll keep me there forever watching. Okay. So again, I'm going to run this clip, look down to the very bottom in the center, and you'll see a blue light flashing. It's real quick, but I tried to make it as long as I could there for you. So watch the blue light flashing down at the bottom center.
You're not sharing.
Oops. That would be a good reason why you can't see it. Let me do it again. Thank you, Mike. All right, now let's try that again. All right, first you're going to see the cylinder drone. There's the cylinder of drones. Now you're going to see the tower right there. You see that blue light blinking down there? Okay. All right, so that's the first one. And to me, that kind of looked like it was the blue light that was blinking on the camera, or on the blue light that came down was the light from the rocket. The issue was that it disappeared for part of its descent. Yes. But was it blinking?
Because it was blinking just now. That
Yeah,
what you just showed, it was blinking.
Yeah, it was blinking here. You can see it blinking down there. Okay. Now, here, this next clip I'm going to show is where Travis goes over to actually do his, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, 1, and he counts it down. He plugs it in and off.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But look at the tower behind him. You'll see a reflection. Now, this one's in infrared, in IR, so you can't see color, but you'll see something lighting up the bottom of the tower behind him or to his right on the tower. So be looking at the tower. I tried to point it out, but it goes by so quick. So I'll be looking at the tower. Right when you see him down there plugging it in, right there. So you can see 3 times something lights up at the tower. It lights, and you see the light shining on the tower. Okay, now the rocket has launched. Now watch when it's coming down to the left side of the, so right there, and right there. I don't know. That's what, and again, like I said, we don't know. First of all, I don't know if it had a blinking light on it. Or was it steady? And again, we don't know. There's so many things that as viewers, we don't know. Now, I'm going to stand on my soapbox and say that these guys would never do anything. I don't think they would never do anything that's going to pull the wool over our eyes. So that's why I asked the question, what am I missing here? I'm missing some pieces of information from this whole thing here. I brought this up because I noticed it. Mike noticed it. Other people are going to notice this. What's going on here? I don't know. But anyway, and again, with only getting less than 1% of all the footage that is taken, and I'm not there on the ranch, I have no idea. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with that. If it ended up being that it was a blinking light and there was some miscommunication, stuff happens. There's, like I said before, you don't have to make stuff up on Skinwalker Ranch, for crying out loud. There's enough weird stuff going on that we can allow for a few things here or there. So not a big deal. But maybe we also know, like you said, sometimes there's some creative editing. There may have been more than one rocket, and maybe some of them had blinking lights and some had a steady light, and this happened to be one that had a steady light and it did get blocked. I don't know, but that's the advantage of having a connectivity with these guys, to be able to ask these questions, because a lot of other people may see that and be like, I don't believe the show, but
yeah, exactly.
The guys always give you, I mean, like you said, it's what, 1%, less than 1% of what was filmed.
Yes, they
fill in so much more information, and maybe they did figure out later it was a blinking light. Maybe they didn't.
Is it possible that both things could be true? That it could both be blinking and it's blocked, but we're thinking that it's blocked for a longer or larger period of time, or a greater space in the sky, when really it's only blocked a tiny bit, even though it is still blinking.
It
'Cause
seemed like the duration of the pulse and the dwell between the pulse was pretty consistent.
yeah, I
Um,
haven't watched it more than once except for just now. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
So yeah, and I don't
Anyway.
know. Like I said, I'm not there on the ranch. I'm not seeing this stuff, and I know that conversation that went on in that command center went on a lot longer than what we saw on television.
Sure. Yep.
So I don't know. It's hard to say. If we find out and we can get anything more on this, we'll let you know. But as I said before, um, just like with the guys on Oak Island, I believe in their integrity with these guys. The team that's here, I believe in their integrity, and I don't believe that they were going to do any. They would do anything to pull the wool over our eyes. There was a thing with a high speed camera last year that they came back with a correction on something they viewed from last year. So
Oh,
I
right.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that? So I know
Yeah.
that they're gonna, if they see something like that. And again, they may have looked at this 1,000 times and said, okay, the duration of it blinking out is like Mike just said, longer than, or you said, Shannon, longer than it should be, or whatever. So hard to say. Really is hard to say. But I
Yeah.
had
And
to
I mean,
point
it
that
could
out.
be like an editing thing too, I suppose. Like if they only had from one angle of one of the rockets, they just used it as an insert. I don't know. But it does go back to the point of being like they don't need to add additional content. Like even, and I thought that like Brandon and maybe some of them got to look at the edits beforehand,
Yeah.
perhaps, right? Like I don't see a point behind adding something so minuscule to this, to like the episode, especially right at the end.
Yep.
So it does make me wonder if it just is a camera thing in terms of like what they had filmed and what they put out.
Yep.
I don't know.
And we know for a fact
Maybe we'll find out. Yeah.
that other things have been blocked. The laser, the
Right.
space
Right.
laser space cannons. Some
Laser spice cannons.
Yeah, thank you. You said it very well. They got blocked out. The helicopter got blocked out. There's been many things that have been blocked out. So, was this another one of those? Could very well be. Again, without being there, we just don't know for sure. But if we can find out, we'll let you know.
One thing I did notice though, it was nice to see that they could fire a rocket straight, because they had problems with that last season, where it seemed like every time they fired one, it would veer off one
Trying to
way or
miss
the other, and they couldn't for the life of them get one to go straight up.
Yep.
Those things were straight as an arrow.
Just hitting the curve of the bubble.
Wouldn't that be something if it went up there and hit the dome and curved around?
Yeah, I'm like very curious now
or
as to
got
where they were
stuck on the way
shooting at.
down.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sliding down rather than.
Funny you should
going
mention
down.
that.
Oh, here we go.
So next time on Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, they build some nice big fires.
Fire.
Yes,
Yep.
fires. Get some fire in here. And then they do launch a rocket. And if you remember, this happened before. They launched a rocket, the chute deploys, and it hangs there in midair for a while.
Can't make this stuff up.
You can't make this stuff up. I mean, that's just nuts, isn't it? I mean, thermal vent, I mean, they are burning fires down there. And but that, from what it looks like, that is a long way above the fires that are burning where this thing is hanging in the air. And they had it happen over in the daylight before. They were watching this in the camera. They're all standing there looking at this rocket on a parachute just hanging in midair, and then like it was on a tether, and then all of a sudden, like it got released, and then it came on down.
So are the fires inside the bubble? I'm just going to call it that permanently. Were the fires for next week, are they inside the bubble? And is the thing that we're seeing suspended in air also supposed to be like, are we assuming that it's stuck in the bubble? Because it makes me wonder if the fires are inside the bubble, if the heat is causing some sort of contraction.
I think the intent was to put the fires right in the triangle.
Yes.
Because they couldn't get the
Yeah.
drones in the
I think
triangle.
that's
Because they wanted to see the smoke, right? But what if the heat itself is causing it to be tougher for the dart to penetrate? Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a lot of heat. Aside from the smoke, obviously.
Mhm.
That's a lot of heat in the middle of summer.
yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, and that somebody mentioned that Alita Green, thank you, Alita, saying that it was motionless hanging there. The one in the daylight. I mean, it wasn't like it was holding on to
Oh.
it, and it was the bottom of it was swinging back and forth wildly. It was the whole thing is like it just froze in midair, and
John
then
K.
suddenly
saying
released and it just came down.
thermal updraft.
Thermal updraft, maybe that's. I thought about that with the fires. I thought, well, you're burning fires down there. You got all this heat rising. Could that have made it? But remember, this picture is showing something that they happened to see that night. Was this thing in the highlighted area right there? And if you heard what Travis had said, bright orb that flew right by the rocket. Look at that little airflow thermals that can suspend a heavy eagle or vulture. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rocket hangs in the air, and you hear Travis say, a bright orb that flew by the rocket. So and then you heard Eric saying that it'll be on a camera, that they will have a camera of this because they got cameras everywhere, especially during their exercises. So, and then one other thing they said about the fires, and I think this was, I honestly, I forget who said it. Build a large fire so we can map the bubble. Map the bubble. And that's, I think that's important. So, you know, and I've often said this, I said it earlier today, that the experiments that these guys are doing, I think will eventually get them to the ability that they'll be able to see this happening. And if this bubble is firing up like a cloaking shield of some sort, and like Travis has said, it's going to take a lot of energy to do something like this. And would you then have your partial slivers coming into place, like Pete found on his terrestrial laser scanner, showing that little sliver that was showing up?
You know,
Oh,
something
yeah.
that reminds me as we think of some of the other things that have happened. And this is, like I said, it's nice that they they're collecting and making a repository of all these experiments. Because if you go back, I don't know how long ago it was, but they were in the helicopter and they were throwing the bottles out with streamers on them and had GPS.
Yep.
Remember what happened with those bottles? They all diverted around.
They did.
None of them would go down straight through, almost like they were hitting a dome. Now that we see a dome or have indications that there's this 2,000 foot boundary, you go back and you think about stuff like that, or the medicine balls even. I mean, it starts to all kind of correlate a little bit. And it's just I think this is one of those some of the stuff even disappeared, including one of the medicine balls disappeared. They never found it.
Right.
This isn't a sprint, this is a marathon, and they're slowly boxing it in, meaning getting to the answer. They're slowly giving it less and less places to go. Now we know that there's this zone. Before, we would hear that, battery on a bulldozer dies. Okay, yeah, weird ranch, right?
Right, yeah.
But that was inside the dome, was it?
Right.
Was it not? I mean, you have to map all of these, right? Go back and look at where all of this stuff happens. How much is inside the dome, and what was it? I Maybe no
where?
batteries die inside the bubble. Maybe only transmissions and audio and video, and there's interference. GPS is weird, but nothing else. Who knows?
Yep.
But
Yep.
you've got this repository now, and with all the other data that they're collecting, I feel like they're going to get there. Not going to be fast, but they're going to get there and start figuring this thing out.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that next week you're going to have a map made, Mike, of all the episodes that you've rewatched.
I don't remember committing to anything.
I feel like that's what I heard, though.
That would be great homework,
that's
though.
fine.
Really,
Yeah.
think about it.
No,
Put a map
it
together.
truly would.
And,
like, even if you just start through the first few episodes, like have the
Yeah.
bubble, and then just start like, we need to update the Google Earth map with the bubble, and then have, maybe it's a community exercise, and start mapping where like somebody watches one episode and they tack it on there. And I feel like the Insiders group is big enough where if everybody was tasked with one episode, people could map it. They could really map it, and then we'd be like, "Oh, there you go."
You suppose that this is something that maybe Eric already has,
Probably,
but can't.
probably.
I won't say won't share, but can't share with us.
Maybe.
But I think
Which is
it's a
why
great.
we'll do it
I think it's a
creatively.
great thing that you have brought something up that I think is this is an important piece to this puzzle. Go back and look at all the past episodes where they've had issues like that other rocket hanging in the air. Was that inside the dome or was that outside the dome?
Oh, look, see, Pete's got a comment.
We have mapped the entire property and set permanent survey control monuments.
I want to know
Precisely why.
what a drum circle would do inside of there with the sound resonance.
Yeah. Were they inside when they did that? Were they inside? Or were they
I don't
outside?
know, but I feel like they need to be at the center of the triangle doing it instead of.
I thought they were over at the
They're in the East Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even in
Which
the
is
formation of
That's
the
outside.
triangle.
That's outside.
Because the bubble goes east of the property actually a little bit.
Yeah.
It goes past the command center to the east from what the map was showing.
Right.
Yeah, Frank, you said you wanted to see drums. I agree with you. We need to see the drums for the sound resonance.
I
would like to see it for that.
Blazing
Very
Bear.
cool.
Yep.
That was great stuff right there. And look what it did. The rocks got heated up on the Mesa.
Yeah.
At that
was crazy
portal area. The rocks up there started heating up. And then you had those two orange orbs that went into the Mesa.
Yeah, I'd like to see some sound experiments in there.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And then we see on this whole the preview that we see for the entire season coming up. We've seen where they talk about Eric's systems being hacked. To me, that's an almost cannot happen type scenario. I mean, that's so devastating to me to have something like that happen. I don't know. We'll find out more as we go along through the season.
Well,
I'm loving
not only that, it's tough to do. Everything's wired. He can't use Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Can't use wireless communication. Everything is wire.
Yeah.
Cable. And by the way, the cows love those cables.
Do they now? They like to chew on them, do they?
According to Eric, stomp on them, chew them,
yep,
cut them.
I tell you what, this season has started off great, and we knew that they kind of talked about that in the off season. They talked about how this one was going to be the best yet, and from what I've seen in the first 2 episodes, it is the best yet.
Earlier today, one of our old episodes popped up on my YouTube feed of us talking to Thomas and Eric last summer during an interview, and Thomas was like, yeah, mess with us or whatever. And then we said, we're going to have to find out this summer if what happened. So we're going to need to look that interview up and then see if anything happened that matches them trying to poke at the You can't forget to do that.
Are you talking about where he taunted?
Yeah.
The
And we
drone?
were like, I hope, yes, when he taunted the drone. Yeah. No,
Is
this
that all
was
you
an
got?
interview with us. This was an interview with Eric was in the command center and Thomas popped in.
Yeah.
And they were telling us a funny story about how they had taunted the drones or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
And then it had happened. And then he made another comment and we said to him, like, I hope that next summer when we're watching the season that we don't find out that something happened right after you were like making, saying what he was saying to the ranch currently in that.
I gotta go back and rewatch it now.
I'll send it to you because
Okay.
there's so many different ones, but we need to pinpoint that date and then follow up on it because now I'm very curious since it just populated for me if it correlates to anything interesting from this season.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't wait. I mean, to me right now, it's like every Tuesday, I'm on the edge of my seat. I go, what are they going to, and again, looking at what's coming up in next week's episode, with another hanging rocket hanging up in the air, sliding down the outside of the dome, and then having a UAP show up. Going to be good stuff. I want to see and I can't wait till they get inside both of the boreholes, at least two, inside the Mesa and get some electronics in there. That's going to be awesome. Can't wait. Final thoughts? Is that it? We're good? Good episode.
Plenty. That was a lot. There was a lot happened in that episode. It was jam-packed.
Truly was. All right, folks, we appreciate you very much joining us here tonight. And for those of you who donated, thank you very much. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you doing that sort of thing because it really, really helps. So if you like the content of the show we did here for you tonight, please consider subscribing to the channel and also consider giving us a thumbs up for tonight. And tell a friend, share it out there with everybody you can. Let them know that, hey, we're trying to do the best we can to break it down as we see it. We don't get to see everything, but we'll break it down as best we can and try to help you understand bits and pieces of this. Thanks to engineer Mike and Shannon giving us all their input and you as well in the chat. Appreciate you very much. For Mike and Shannon, that's it for me. Thank you very much. And we'll catch you next time right here on the Freeman Files. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Oh, thank you.